we also see like that from the Palestinian activists and otherwise in the diaspora as well, that there is a mixed reaction, and yet at the same time, uh, experts and others are calling it a win. And like we've quoted that, international law experts are saying this is a de facto ceasefire. So how do you see that divide, and very legitimate opinions by all sides?
Of course, Palestinians have the right to be a bit disappointed because the court did not call for immediate ceasefire and, in a way, allowed Israel to continue killing Palestinians. And there is another point of disappointment because the court called for the release of Israeli prisoners, but never mentioned the Palestinian prisoners. Although we are talking about 130 maybe Israeli prisoners versus around 11,000 Palestinian prisoners now, if we count those in Gaza and in the West Bank. Nevertheless, I think it's a historical resolution, a historical ruling, because it, for the first time in 75 years, Israel is held accountable in front of international law, and it is stripped of its impunity that was given to Israel, by the United States and Western countries for all these 75 years. Israel committed a whole huge crime in 1948, evicting 70% of the Palestinian people in the worst act of ethnic cleansing. It killed more than 120,000 Palestinians during these years till the 7th of October. It imprisoned more than 1 million Palestinians. And it attacked Gaza 5 times before this last war. Killing and destroying and doing everything. And Israel is occupying us since 56 years and created a system of apartheid and was never held accountable. So the fact that Israel is now in the court having to defend itself from the accusation of genocide is by itself a great achievement, because it means that Israel has to be accountable like everybody else. The second point is that what the court actually demanded from Israel and from the Israeli army, which is to stop killing civilians and to prevent killing civilians and to prevent advocacy of killing Palestinians and genocide, and asking Israel to allow humanitarian aid immediately, all of that cannot be implemented without complete and total ceasefire. It's impossible. Impossible to have real aid without a ceasefire, impossible to stop killing people without ceasefire. So in a way, the court said there should be a ceasefire, but not directly. Of course, Israel is rejecting the court and reject any international legitimacy for which it should be punished. But one more thing, I think this court, the ruling of the court, has also opened the door for 2 things. First of all, for Algeria to go to the Security Council of the United Nations and demand ceasefire there again, putting the United States in front of a responsibility, and we'll see what they will do. And second, it actually opened the door wide to conducting boycott, divestment, sanctions activities against Israel. As long as it continues with this war, as long as it continues with a system of apartheid, racial discrimination, and the acts of genocide.
Yes, so and how do you, you've mentioned Algeria. How do you see the role of other allies? We've seen there's a list of countries which are supporting South Africa in some form. Some more were more forthcoming. Pakistan itself has welcomed the hearing and again said that none of the court's orders can be implemented without a ceasefire, said the same. So how do you see the allies of Palestine and member states playing more of a role to help the Palestinian case?
We appreciate so much the position of South Africa and all those who supported, all countries that supported the South African case, including Pakistan, of course. And we appreciate that. And we hope that they continue to support the case in the courts. But we want more than that. I think the 57 Arab and Muslim countries have promised that they will break the siege on Gaza. And they didn't do anything. And I proposed from the very first day of their meeting that they should send a convoy representing all the 57 Arab and Muslim countries, including with them major humanitarian organizations like UNICEF, WHO, UNRWA, and others, and break the siege on Gaza to bring in humanitarian aid. We're not asking these countries to send their armies or to fight Israel, but we're asking to challenge Israel with a humanitarian convoy and tell Israel you cannot just continue to do what you do, depriving people from food, depriving people from medicines. We have people who have been operated on without anesthesia. We have people who had their legs amputated without anesthesia. We have children who were operated on without anesthesia because Israel is not allowing the medications to Gaza. We have people who are dying because there is no antibiotics and no other basic medicines like for heart diseases and hypertension and diabetes. Children with diabetes do not have insulin. This all has to stop. And I think that the 57 countries should form this convoy and challenge Israel. Will Israel bombard a convoy representing 57 countries? I think that would be very difficult. But without challenging Israel, Israel will continue this barbaric behavior against the Palestinian people.
One more question on the situation in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. We've been seeing that there are at least over 300 people who have been killed in the occupied territories, and over 4,000 people have been injured. And these include teenagers and children, minors. And of course, the number of detentions and administrative detentions and even enforced disappearances is quite high. How do you see the situation, and of course the settler violence, as we've seen, which has escalated since October 7th? How do you see that, and the people's anger, not just towards Israel, but also the government in the occupied territories?
Well, if we count since the beginning of last year, we have 540 Palestinians killed in Gaza, in West Bank, and including 60 children. And it goes on. They kill people every day. And more than that, the West Bank is totally reoccupied by Israeli army. The Palestinian Authority has no authority whatsoever anymore. Israel took over. There isn't any Palestinian city that is not invaded regularly by the Israeli army, creating a lot of clashes with the civilian population. And there is a huge amount of people arrested. Since the 7th of October, Israeli army arrested 6,000 Palestinians in the West Bank. And the number of Palestinians in Israeli jails today from the West Bank is 8,000 plus 3,000 in Gaza who were kidnapped. Many of them are women, many of them are children. We know that there is a very bad torture practiced against these prisoners. Seven of our prisoners in the West Bank have been killed because of torture in Israeli prisons since the 7th of October. An unknown number of Palestinian prisoners from Gaza were also killed, either by field assassination, field execution, or by torture. Israel is doing whatever it wants, and there is no accountability whatsoever here. But the West Bank itself has been divided in 224 small islands, separated from each other by 560 military Israeli checkpoints.